Okay, good morning. Today's daf is daf Nun Zayin of Ketubot. And we literally James and I just literally came from a conversation that we had with Rabbi Jeff Fox, answering one of the questions that we had yesterday. We weren't 100% sure, thought that I had the answer, and thankfully Rabbi Fox confirmed that when we give the ketubah from the husband to the wife, that is not actually going to formally be a kedushin via shtar. That does not fulfill that really the ketubah would just be a shtar that evidences nisuin. But when we talk about the three ways of marrying, we're referring to kedushin, so we don't actually formally do kedushin via shtar. There, we do a variety of different acts that relate to nisuin, from the chuppah itself to the bedekin to the time in yichud. But in any event, so we do a lot of different things, and of course we do have. But when it comes to the Harayat Mikudeshes Li, we generally are focusing on the Kesef, and that's what the ring accomplishes. And so something is given from the husband to the wife in order to effectuate the Kedushin moment. Okay. In any event, today we now begin with the story of a lost ketubah on the bottom line of Nun Vav Amabet. So, fourth word on the line, Achase de Rami Bar Chama, so the sister of Rami Bar Chama, Havas Nesiva le Ravavya. She was married to Ravavya. And as we turn to Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, what happened? Irkas Ksuba saw, oh no, her Ksuba got lost. Asu Lekameh to Rav Yosef. They went in front of Rav Yosef. Amar lahu hachi amar Rav Yehuda amar Shmuel. This is what Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. Zo devri Rabbi Meir. Those are the words of Rabbi Meir, referring back to our Mishnah where Rabbi Meir says that anyone who is any intercourse that involves a woman who is unsure about receiving her full ketubah is considered a bias nus. So that was only Rabbi Meir's opinion. Aval chachamim omrim, but the chachamim say, Masha adam es ishto shtayim u'shveshalosh shanim below ksuba. It's okay to wait 2 or 3 years without a ksuba, and based on the top Tosfos, we can say that Tosfos notes, I don't understand if it's 3 years, then of course it's 2 years, and the fact that we don't ask that question suggests that in fact the 2 or 3 is not even is lav dafka, that there's an idea that it could even potentially be more time. So as a result, that this is just a time without a ksuba. So this is if the ksuba is lost, this is 2 or 3 years, so then you're fine. And it would be nice if that were the halacha. But Amar le Abaye said back to him, 1 second. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, halacha k'Rabbi Meir b'gzeiro sav, that the halacha is like Rabbi Meir in connection with his decrees. And so as a result, here we have, arguably, the question is why is this considered a decree? But we could say that this is a decree because, again, technically, from a biblical perspective, the man is obligated in the full amount of the ksuba. He can't reduce it, and so as a result, even though the woman may feel like it's not the full, that she might not get the full amount, that's not in fact the case. He is required to pay the full amount. So and so since he's strict as a result of that, so that's considered sort of like a zeros. And indeed,
the way I'm thinking about it is that what's the whole concept here, right? The whole concept is that we don't want that when we think of znus, at least I think of prostitution. And when you diminish the amount, and it's not just not a fixed large amount that is designed in order to prevent divorce, but rather a smaller amount that doesn't prevent divorce, then what really is it but in fact coming closer and closer to an act of prostitution? And so as a result, I sort of see this as, as a gzeira, that if in fact we were to enable a ketubah of any amount, well, then you have the situation where apparently exists in some countries where you marry people for a night, right? You marry a person for the night and you pay them the ketubah, and then you're done, and you go on to the next person that you're going to, and that's what in part what the ketubah is designed to avoid. And so as a result, by enabling a lesser payment, or by having a potential for lesser payment, Rabbi Meir is highlighting that essentially you're going to come towards the direction of prostitution. Well,
I'm sorry, but even if that would be the case, where it would be so lenient,
right,
ketubah, you would still have to go before the bet din to have a ruling, no?
Same, a little bit more, in order to effectuate the divorce. Right. Yes, you would need a beit din in order to effectuate the divorce.
And they would say ridiculous.
Well, I mean, that's the question is would they? Exactly. Right. Meaning, if in fact it was permitted, so then why would they necessarily say that it's ridiculous? They don't have to say it's ridiculous. They could say, but in any event, so Rav Yosef now replies to Abaye, and he says, Ihachi zilk sovla. So go right and repair and immediately take care of and fix and replace the lost ketubah. And so that's in fact the way we paskin, that in fact, you have to replace the lost ketubah as soon as it is realized that it was lost. All right, so that is story number one. So now yesterday we mentioned the debate between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda regarding the validity of an oral waiver, right? So Rabbi Yossi said even an oral waiver. This was a baraisa that introduced Rabbi Yossi. In our Mishnah, we only had Rabbi Meir and we only had Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, and now we had a baraisa that quoted Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yossi was the one who went so far as to say that even an oral waiver will work, and Rabbi Yehuda says no, the waiver has to be in writing. So now the question is when are we talking about? When precisely in the marriage process? And that's where we're going to have a debate between Rav Dimi and Ravin. They're going to come, and both of them came from Israel to Bavel, and they're going to come and report a particular other debate. And that other debate, we're going to actually end up saying was not even a debate. They were just,
David,
yes.
Rabbi Mosley be involved?
Will
Mosley.
Will
Rabbi Mosley was
Rabbi Mosley. Rabbi Yossi, yes, Rabbi Yossi, yes. And so now we're talking about Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda. So they're debating whether or not you can do a waiver, meaning that the wife has the ability to say she doesn't want the full amount of money, and without having to write it all down. Does she have to write it down? That's the question. So Kiyasa Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Mishum Bar Kapara. He said that it was Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, in the name of Bar Kapara, Machlokas Batchila, that the machlokas between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda is only in the beginning. Well, what in the world does in the beginning mean? Well, let's just make sure that we understand. First, Rashi is the one who tells us machlokas. It's about 15 lines down in Rashi. To Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, to Amar Rabbi Yehuda al peh lav tanahu, that if it was just an oral condition in the on the ketubah to pay a lesser amount, that would not be okay. Rabbi Yossi says over Tana Kayim, and Rabbi Yossi says no, that condition, as long as the woman accepts it, is sufficient. So those were the two viewpoints. And what is betchila? Mefarish l'kama and tchilas mai. So we're going to explain exactly what beginning means. So, but in any event, we're going to frame the question of saying beginning, and we don't know what exactly it is. However, when it comes to the end, whenever it is, then you cannot be mochel it without a writing. Again, Rashi explains because at some moment she has become she has taken possession effectively of the ksuba itself. The amirta lavklum, and as a result, her saying something is not going to make a difference. Ella imkain kasva shover hiskabalti. Only if she were to actually write down a receipt that says I received it, that is when it will be sufficient. So that's the Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, so that was the view of the first party, the Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi in the name of Bar Kapara. And Rabbi Yochanan says, no, bein bizo uvein bizo machlokas, that they argue both in the beginning and in the end. Well, that sounds like it's a machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and the Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. But let's see, Amar Rabbi Abahu. Rabbi Abahu says, "Ledidim parsha li minei de Rabbi Yochanan." Rabbi Yochanan specifically explained this to me. The honor of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, lo palkin and adadi. I and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi actually don't argue at all. My betchila, what is the tchila that the Ka'amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? What was that first step? Tchilas chuppah. That's the beginning of chuppah. So the couple goes into the chuppah, and as a result, that's that first step of the beginning of that chuppah process. That is when there would be this debate between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda, Umay Sof, and when is the end, when there is no debate and everybody agrees that a written receipt is required. Sophia, that's at the end of the bia, meaning after the chuppah, after the marriage is totally consummated. So that is when everybody agrees that you need a written document, meaning at that point, it is clear that the woman has earned or has taken possession of her rights to the ksuba payment, including the full payment of any extra funds. And when I said that there's a disagreement both at the beginning and at the end, what was I talking about? Tchilas chuppah, when beginning, I was referring to the same beginning, namely the beginning of the chuppah, but the sof chuppah, when I was talking about the end, I was talking about after the chuppah, dehi tchilas bia, which is the moment of the beginning of the marital relations, meaning where do you go and just frame it in our weddings, where do you go straight from the chuppah? Where does everybody dance the couple? They dance the couple to the yichud room. That's the sense of going directly from the chuppah. The end of the chuppah is when on some level often it's where the groom crushes the class in memory of Yerushalayim, and then we go to the yichud room, take the couple to the yichud room where they have the opportunity, although they have the opportunity to engage in marital relations. So when I say end, I'm referring to a different moment. So as a result, we have 3 different time periods. And for those on Zoom, you can see the time periods on the screen. We have beginning of the chuppah, where everybody agrees there's a dispute. We have and so Rabbi Yehuda says you need a written waiver. Rabbi Yossi says no, oral's even okay. We have the end of the chuppah, beginning of marital relations, where there's also a dispute. And again, Rabbi Yehuda says you need a written waiver, and Rabbi Yossi says it's orally okay. An oral waiver is okay. And then you have the end of the relations at the end of the whole evening. So then everybody agrees, Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda say that you agree that we need a written waiver. So now we get a second view of this. Kiyasa Ravin Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Mishum Bar Kapara. So again, same people are going to be involved, except that now it's Ravin who's telling the entire story, and he's going to say something different. He's saying Machlokes Besof, that the argument is only about the end. Aval Betchila Divrei Hakol Mocheles. But in the beginning, everyone agrees that the wife does not need, that even an oral waiver is sufficient. Rabbi Yochanan, Bein Bezo Machlokes. And again, Rabbi Yochanan says both in the beginning and in the end, the parties argue. And Amar Rabbi Abahu, and Rabbi Bahu says again, L'didim Parsha Mine the Rabbi Yochanan, Da'ana Rabbi Yoshua B'nei Levi, Lo Plugina Nadadi. That in fact we're not arguing, he tells Rabbi Abahu. Rabbi Yochanan tells Rabbi Abahu. So my levasof the Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. What was the end that Rabbi Yoshua was speaking about? Sof chuppah. He was talking about the end of the chuppah. Umay tchila. And he was talking about the beginning of the chuppah. And when I said that the machlokas existed, I was talking about the beginning of bia and the end of bia. So here we have the same three moments in time: the beginning of chuppah, the end of chuppah / beginning of marital relations, and the end of marital relations. And now we have a different set of circumstances. According to Ravin, everybody agrees at the beginning of the chuppah that the woman could even waive orally. Then you have the end of chuppah, beginning of relationship. That's where everybody disputes. And Rabbi Yehuda says you need a written waiver. Rabbi Yossi says no, oral waiver is okay. And even at the end of relations, Rabbi Yehuda, they argue. And Rabbi Yehuda says you need a written waiver. And Rabbi Yossi says no, he continues the debate, meaning an oral waiver is always okay. I think that we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. I'm not 100% sure. In which case, though, we would say that the woman's waiver only works if it was in writing. That's certainly what I would hope, given the difficulties of proof that's involved. So now we have a statement about this whole story of these two reports that Rav Papa is going to say. So what does Rav Papa say? Amar Rav Papa, Ilav de Amar Rabbi Abahu. If it weren't for Rabbi Abahu, of course, is the one who told us that Rabbi Yochanan said that he actually didn't argue with Rabbi Yoshua at all. But if we didn't have Rabbi Abahu, l'didim partially mine, the Rabbi Yochanan de Ana, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi lo palginan adadi. That if it wasn't for that statement that Rabbi Abahu said, Hava Amina, I would have thought Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, pliki. I would have said that Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi are the ones who are arguing. Ravdimi, Ravin lo pliki. And it was that when Ravdimi and Ravin came and reported these two debates, they really weren't arguing. My sof to Kamar Ravin, when Ravin said that he was talking about sof chuppah. Umay tchila to Kamar Ravin, Ravdimi, tchilas bia. That basically you could, instead of placing the debate between Ravdimi and Ravin, we could have said, no, Ravdimi and Ravin actually agree. They're just using a different sof and tchila. And really the debate is between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Now, my Kamashmalan, what is Rav Papa teaching us by telling us that he was going to move the debate, right? So there are three levels. There's the Mishnaic level, the Tanaim, who are Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. And then we have an early Amoraim in Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua. And then we have the later of Ravdimi and Ravin. So those are the three generations of arguments. Everybody agrees that there's this argument of the Tanaim. And we then had the middle level of Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Yochanan, where we could say that there was a debate there, But Rabbi Yochanan told Rabbi Bao, no, there's no debate. And then there's the final level of the debate between Ravin and Rav Dimi. And what Rav Papa is saying is, I would rather have a debate in the middle level between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Yochanan than put the debate between Ravin and Rav Dimi. And why? Because Hakamashwan, this is what Rav Papa is teaching us. The pligi trei amurai ataima denafshaihu, v'lo pligi trei amurai aliba dechad amora. That it would be better to have two Amorayim arguing about their own logic than to have two Amorayim arguing about what somebody else's opinion was. Now, Tosfos asks the question, so why is that? Why is that? So Rashi, in the Rashi begins in the 6th wide line, Hakamashmal, and it's a long Rashi, but near the end of the line, bottom line, it comes out. If you take a look 4 lines up from the end of that Rashi, at the ends of the line, it says Chad Minai Hu Meshaker, that at the end of the day, if we're arguing about what the argument is about, then one person is right and one person is wrong. But if we're arguing about logic, if I come up with one reason for something and you come up with another reason for something, then 2 lines down from that, the end of the line, it says and we can say that everybody's right, that we're all just learning Torah and we're thinking about the logic that's associated with it. And we would rather say Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. And so as much as possible, we want debates not to be about what somebody else said, but about whether or not what the underlying logic is for the reasoning. Now, Tosfos points out, I don't understand. In the end of the matter, even if you say that the debate is between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua, that debate is about Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda. So isn't that the case? So Tosfos explains that actually we didn't have information, that the debate isn't, that we only have the base statement, and that what Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Yochanan, if they were the ones who were arguing, what they would be arguing about is actually the logic, that we only have the base statement of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, and so as a result, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua would be essentially explaining how do we apply each of their respective principles. And so that would actually be a logical debate. And so as a result, you could apply the concepts of Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. And so that is, so this is a very important Gemara with respect to understanding that when we have a debate about, like, what did Rav Moshe say about some psak, so then you can't say Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. But when you have a debate about how about the logic associated with it and how potentially Rav Moshe would apply in Rosh Moshe's reasoning would apply in some new case, then we can have the opportunity to say Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. Okay, so that brings us to the next Mishnah, and the next Mishnah addresses the question of the timing of Nisuin and Kedushin. Now, again, Kedushin is the first step. That's the Erisin step. And then we have Nisuin. That's the Chuppah step. That's the final marriage step. And now we're going to talk about the time between them. So, Nosin lebesulish nemasar chodesh mishitiva al habal, that a virgin bride, when the husband says, I want to marry you, meaning they've done Erisin, and now it comes time that they want to get married. They want to finish the marriage process. So she's given 12 months in order to, get herself ready. So similarly, again, we enable the man to also get himself ready. I think mostly the Farnes on this, I think it's primarily financially, but the point is that they need to be able to give.
Can either party say, I don't think so in this 12-month?
Well, if they want to say, I don't want to marry you,
Right.
they would need a get. They would need a get because
Right.
this is
We discussed
after
that.
Erison. So you're
Right.
exactly right. So almana shloshim yom. However, when it's a widow, so then it's 30 days is sufficient. Higias man veloni. So what happens if now a year later the time has arrived and the marriage didn't happen yet? Oh, close mishalo.
I think it was too much money.
It could be that's the reason, but the man can't get away from supporting his wife. That if they were supposed to get married today, then as of today, the man has to pay for his wife's food. The ochlos betruma, and not only that, but because the man has this obligation to pay, he can even feed her. If he's a Kohen, he could feed her truma because she's now considered almost like she's married to him, and as a result is able to eat truma. Rabbi Tarvan says, no kol truma. He has the ability to give her only truma. Now, why does that matter? Because there are times of month that, of course, a woman becomes tameh because she is a nida. She has her menstrual period. And so as a result, during that time, she's not allowed to eat truma. And so, but Rabbi Tarfon says you could give her just truma and she'll sell some of the truma in order to get herself other food. Rabbi Akiva Omer, no, matzah chulin and matzah truma. You have to give half truma and half other non-truma because we want her to be able to eat the food that is given to her. Okay, so that's with respect to a regular marriage. Hayavam, when a woman is ready to do yibum, eino machil betruma. The husband, the yavam she will marry. This is not talking about where she already married, because then she's fully fledged marriage. We're talking about a situation where she's waiting to do yibum, so she cannot eat truma. No, there's no erison. Remember that there could be erison. I mean, he's allowed to say hareyat mikudeshes li, but it's not necessary. And remember, there was I don't now remember what it's called, but there was a first step in when we did Yevamos. There is a first step that the rabbis said, should be done, but it isn't strictly necessary. This is the moment the husband dies, there becomes this connection between the widow and his brother. Zug. No, that's not it. I'm not getting it. It's not gonna come to me. So God willing, I'll have it for tomorrow. I'm just very terrible at remembering terms. So, all right. So, maybe it'll come to me during the course, but okay. So so the bottom line is that is not enough of a connection in order to enable the wife to eat truma. And so even if there was the 12-month period, as we're about to see, even if there was 6 months that she was waiting to marry the husband, and 6 months that she's been waiting to marry the yavam, so as a result, he didn't fulfill the requirement. The total time was 12 months. And so she thought that she was going to be fully married at this point. That's not enough. And even if you had 11 months and 29 days or 28 days in the Jewish calendar, and with the husband, and then 1 day with the yavam, so she was literally the next day he was going to be obligated to feed her, and he had not. She still can't have truma. Or the first day that they get in, that the husband says, okay, I'm ready to get married. And she says, okay, let's do it in 12 months. And she then comes back, and then the next day, the man drops dead and the groom drops dead. And now she's she's been waiting 11 months and 29 days with the yavam. and he hasn't done anything, still, Eina Ochelas Betruma. She's not allowed to eat truma. So Zo Mishnah Rishona, this was the original teaching. Now this Rashi explains this goes back on the concept that after 12 months she can eat truma, and based in Shalacharei and Amru. However, when it comes to a later court, what did they teach later? So there, as we turn to Zion Amabet, Ein Ha'isha Ochelas Betruma Ad She'tchinas Chuppah, that she needs to have done chuppah. Zika was the term that we were thinking that I couldn't remember. Zika was the Zika relationship begins with the death of the husband, and so as a result, a woman's not allowed to eat truma until she enters the chuppah. That's what the later Beit Din said, and so we'll discuss all of that, God willing, tomorrow, I believe. And so, but for right now, we're going to go back and understand where did this 12-month period come from. So we're going to say that it came from the story of Rivka. So let's take a look. How do we know this rule about 12 months? Amar of Chisda to Amar Kra, the Torah tells us, Vayomer Achia ve'ima tesheva na'ara itanu yamim asor. Let this woman stay with us for yamim or 10. So let's see, what does yamim mean in that? My yamim, if you want to say yamim here means a couple of days, so 2 days. Does a person negotiate like this? Amrule trey yomi, amrlahu lo, amrule asara yomi, that a person first says, come and I'll let her stay for 2 days. The person says no, and then the guy says back, okay, so let her stay for 10 days. That's not how you negotiate. You ask for a larger amount, and then when it says no, then you ask for a smaller amount. Now, of course, the truth is that sometimes people do negotiate that way. But in any event, so therefore, elamai yamim shana, yamim needs to be a full year. And how do we know that a yamim is a full year? Because d'chsiv yamim tehiyeh geulaso, that when it comes to the redeeming of a home, if you sell a home in a walled city, that this is from the end of Sefer Vayikra, that if you sell a home in a walled city, you have a year to redeem it. But once that year passes, you cannot rebuy it. And remember, unlike regular property, where after 50 years it all comes back to you, a home in a walled city, when you sell it for good. So if you don't take advantage of the 1 year redemption possibility, opportunity, you're done. Exactly. You don't have a chance to redeem it later. So, but in that context, it's clear that Yamim meant a year. So, Be'ema Chodesh. Well, 1 second. What? Why is it clear? Why is it clear in that situation? Then, so that well, not. I don't have. Let's see. I think that I'd have to take a look at that pasuk. Let me just see. Because it says, if we take a look at the full pasuk, it says the ishkiyim kor beit moshav ir choma. So if the person sells their dwelling home in a walled city, v'haiza gu'ulasa ad tom shnat mimkaro, he has until the end of the year. Yamim tiyeh gulato. Those are the days that he has to. So in that context, it's clear that Yamim is a shana. Okay, so that's the answer to that question. So be'ema chodesh. Well, 1 second. We also see elsewhere in the Torah that Yamim can be a month. Diksiv ad chodesh Yamim. When it comes to in Sefer Bamidbar, it says that chodesh Yamim. So again, that could be. Why can't we say that? Why can't we say that when the brother and mother say let her stay for yamim, it means to say for a chodesh. That would work because 30 is longer than, 30 days of a month is longer than 10 days. So maybe that should be sufficient. So Amre, done in yamim stam, miyamim stam. That when it says yamim in connection with the year long that you have for the walled city, it doesn't, even though the rest of the verse tells you that it's a full year, it doesn't actually have any modifiers on the word yamim. And so as a result, we should learn one yamim that has no modifiers from another yamim that has no modifiers. V'ein dana yamim stam miyam mishenemar behen chodesh. And we shouldn't derive a yamim from that references a specific time from another yamim that specifically we shouldn't derive a yamim that doesn't mention anything else from a yamim where it specifically tells you that it's a month. Okay, so as a result, that's how we know that we could enable a potential 1 year of waiting. So Amar Rabbi Zera Tana. So we're going to teach a series of laws and effectively exceptions to the 12-month waiting period. So Amar Rabbi Zera says Tana ben he ubein aviha yichol. Katana ben he ubein aviha yichol la'akib. When it comes to a minor, then both she and her father can delay the wedding beyond a year until she becomes an adult. So Bishlama ihi matzi ma'akba, it makes sense that she can delay the wedding because she feels that she's not ready to get married, and so as a result she wants to wait until she becomes an adult. El avia, but when it comes to her father, ihi nichala, if she's ready to get married, avia mai nafka lemina, why should the father care? So savar hashda lo yada. So maybe he's concerned because he knows that she's really not ready. So, and what will happen? Lamachar mimurda nafka. She's going to rebel. She's going to rebel against the husband, meaning she's not going to act in a way that the husband's going to like. V'nafka, and as a result, she'll leave him. And where is she going to go if she leaves her husband? And she'll become his problem again. Well, the whole point is that he's trying, again, this is a different time when people really had nothing to eat. He's trying to make sure that he has enough food for the rest of his family. And he needs to make sure that she gets fed from someone else's family. And so he needs to make sure that this marriage is one that sticks. And so he'll pay additional food for her during the course of her youth, so that when she becomes an adult, she'll be able to be set aside to be married. So Amar Rabbi, so that was teaching number 1. Now we have Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Levi, Ein Poskin al Hakatana Lahasiya Kashehi Katana, that we don't set a date for the nisuin of a minor when she's a minor. So even though we've had lots of discussions about minors who are married, Rabbi Abba Bar Levi is saying that we shouldn't do that. Aval poskin ala katana la'asiya kashehi gedola. But rather, the date that you set for the final stage of marriage, meaning the kedushin, can happen earlier. But the nisuin, and the father would do that. But the nisuin, namely the moment where they actually get married and begin living together, that should be waited until she is an adult. Well, pshita, isn't this obvious? So ma'odetema, leichush dilma ma'ayla pachada mehashda v'chalsha. Maybe we should be worried that if we set the date now, meaning set the date while she is still a minor, she is going to be afraid of what's going to happen to her. And as a result, she will not be as healthy, and she'll become weak and not as healthy as a result of it. And so maybe we shouldn't even set the date. So Kamash Malan, it's okay to set the date for the eventual marriage. So Amr of Huna, Bagra Yom Echa V'Niskadsha Nosnin La Shloshim Yom Ka'almana. That when it comes to a 12-and-a-half-year-old girl, once she has become 12-and-a-half years old, then she would not get a full year of preparation, even if she is a betula, she only gets 30 days, just like a widow. Well, Meisvei, Bagra Hare. So now we're going to give 3 efforts to try and prove Rav Huna wrong. And finally, the third of our efforts will be successful. And with that, we will conclude for today. So, Meisvei, effort number 1. Effort number 1. Bagra harehi kisvua, that a bagra, a one who is 12 and a half, it's as if the husband has asked to marry her. So my love kisvua de besula, wouldn't this mean like a somebody who asked to marry a virgin? Namely, it means that it's from that point we trigger a 12-month waiting period. No, lo kisvu d'almana. It could be that no, it's talking about somebody who asks to marry, who says that they're after they've after they've done erisin, that now they're ready to get married, and then that triggers a 30-day period just like for a widow. So that was effort number 2. So now effort number 3, tashma. Bogeres sheshaz shnei masar chodesh. If you have a bogeres that's waited 12 months to get married, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Hoel v'chayev bala b'mizonaseha yafer, that since the husband has the right, the husband has the obligation to pay for her food at that point, once the 12 months have expired, yafer, he has to annul her vows. He has the right to annul her vows as well. But the bottom line is it seems that we have a bogeres who's waiting 12 months to engage in nisuin. So isn't that a contradiction to Rav Huna? So no, it does not. Ema bogeres v'sheshasa shnei masar chodesh. That we could say that it's a bogeres or somebody who's waited 12 months, and that when we're talking about a bogeres, we're talking about a bogeres who's waited only 30 days. So Rabbi, and it's in that case, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Hoel v'alach chayav b'mizonaseha yafer. That's where the husband is obligated to feed her, and so as a result, he gets the right to annul her vows. Well, Tashma, third of our 3 challenges, and this one, of course, is going to be successful, and with that, we will conclude. So Hama'ares es habasula, if one does erisin with a virgin, bein shetva ahabal v'hima keves, whether the husband wants to now take the next step and marry her and do nisuin, and she says no, I want to wait. Bein shetava hi uval ma'akev, or she makes the request. Okay, I'm ready to get married. Let's have this happen quickly, and she's the one who delays. Nostin la shnei masar chodesh mishas tvia. We give 12 months from the time of the request. Aval lo mishas erisin. But it's not from the time of the erisin, meaning erisin happens, and then the request happens, and then the 12 months happen. So you don't go back to 12 months from erisin. So obviously you could do erisin and make the request on the same day. Uvagra harehi kitua. However, when it comes to a bogeret, she is treated as if there was a solicitation for marriage, that she already was asked that the marriage be done. Ketzat, how do we say that she's treated as if it was immediately as if there was a request for marriage? That as soon as she is mikudeshes, after she becomes a bogeret, we give her 12 months. Arusa shloshim yom. But when it comes to an arusa, she gets 30 days. Now, we're going to have to explain what that last clause means, because that was totally confusing. But the bottom line is, to yuvta to Rav Huna, to yuvta. So this clearly contradicts Rav Huna, because we said that what's the story? The story is a bogeres who does erisin, and she immediately gets 12 months. That's not like Rav Huna. Rav Huna said that the bogeres gets only 30 days. So we've disproven Rav Huna. But now, what was this last term? So we've successfully disproven, but we need to understand this last clause in the brisa of my uvila arusa shloshim yom. What did that mean? So Amar Rav Papa Hachikamar. This is what it's saying. Bogeres she'avru aleha shnei masar chodesh v'vagrus v'niskacha. If in fact you're talking about a 13-and-a-half-year-old, a bogeret who's gone through another full year,
Mm,
and then she does erisin, well then nosen law shloshim yom ka'almana. She is the one. So as a result, we now see, maybe I don't know whether Rav Huna either made a mistake and in his understanding, or it was in his transition, meaning in his explanation. But there is a bogeres who, when she becomes betrothed, she only gets 30 days. It's a bogeres who's been a bogeres for a year. And so we will pick up with at these two dots at the bottom of Nun Zayin Nun Bet, God willing, tomorrow. And there we'll dive into the question of when a bride who will be marrying a Kohen may begin eating Truma.
thank you.
All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.